Okay, I tried to prepare for this. It's just very complicated. It's just many points on this big web, and I know I'm going to jump around. But let me posit this question first. How does a game of Monopoly end? Today, Gundog says things used to be simpler. There were less of us, more room for competition. You could come up with an idea and sell a product. Just look at, I'm from Houston, look at Carbach. It was a local brewery. They started making great beer, easily Houston's best brewery. And so here comes Anheuser-Busch, and they're like, you make good beer. I want to distribute that beer. Gimme. That's the sound they made when they consumed them. There's not as much free enterprise anymore, because anytime something profitable shows up, these bigger companies, these companies that have been around for longer and have already absorbed so many other smaller assets, can just scoop them up. You can just buy them. It's more profitable now just to already be rich and to buy someone else's good idea than come up with a new one of your own. I just find my personal predicament, and a lot of people's, just to be overall frustrating that we're being squeezed out being able to afford anything because maybe we're a part of a labor force. And there's, again, so many of us where you're practically worthless. Like, that's never something bigger companies have had to reinvest in. There will always be someone to pull the lever, and eventually it's going to be a robot. When we were young, we were taught that America's great and it's land of the free. But George Carlin famously said, I think all of his stuff is famous or should be, read in schools. But he said that in America, there is no freedom of choice. You have two choices. It's like paper or plastic, smoking or non. Which I imagine some of you get the joke there, because we don't have that choice, either one of those choices anymore. When you're born in America, one of the major choices that's going to affect your life is you don't get to decide what kind of political and economic system you live in. If you're born in America, it's capitalist. If you're born in China, it's communist. And this is going to structure your entire life. If I was in a country that was truly free, I guess it'd have to be some type of tribal. The reality is there's so much of our life that is not under our control. Propagating choice is an illusion. I guess I don't want to get too far into that yet. We can, based on comments, we can have a second video. Let's just make another simple example here of what's going on in our country. Make America Great Again, obviously. It's this, and South Park covered it, it's this nostalgia thing. It's looking back to build a future. I mean, already that's backwards. It could be inspiring and appealing to ethos, people's emotions. South Park, of course, great with their remember there weren't so many Mexicans? But if you're a family, and that's one of the problems with America, is we are intentionally turned against each other, being divisive, rich versus poor, and actually less of that, and lately it's been a lot of black versus white. And as long as we're fighting with each other, we can't, be a unit and work together. It's not a coincidence. We have a two-party political system. Really? With this great country, and you get two options, paper or plastic, smoking or non. Reality ultimately being that there's probably not a choice, that both parties are seemingly working hand in hand. I mean, they're definitely getting the same stuff done, which is nothing. But if you had a family and this next year we have a new kid and we have a dog, maybe we won't be able to get around in that same old vehicle we've been using. Maybe the one we bought when we started this family. But now we have 3 more kids and 2 dogs and a bird and a rattlesnake named Jasper. We have to accommodate for that, don't we? Or if not, we're going to it's going to create problems in the family. If we're only feeding half of the family, I mean, then it would become obvious to say 2 children who were not getting fed that, oh, well, they don't want me here, or I'm not as important, and what should I do about my own self-preservation? Alright, I want to keep this video short and just bring up some ideas for discussion if you guys want to come back at me with some points or some questions, some observations, or whatever. Let's just wrap it up with what I was saying. Well, how does monopoly end? And that's the problem with capitalism, is we're at the end of a game of Monopoly, and the game is over when everybody else has lost, when there's nobody else to take money from. And so we have these, it's probably not wrong to say like 5 or 6 players, and then we're everyone else, and there's no one else to take money from, and someone has everything, and they win, and the rest of us lose. So it was great to build a country, but we're gonna need a bigger car.